Well, it's officially 12 noon, so I can now say good afternoon. Good. And welcome to Unity of Charlotte. So this is time we celebrate mothers of all forms in terms of maternal love and all the forms that that takes. Did everyone get a flower that wanted one? If you didn't, raise your hand and we'll get you one now. There's one over here. There's one over there. Awesome. We'll get those. Like I said, maternal love in all forms. There may be folks out there, single parents, single fathers, who represent that maternal love as well. So we honor all those forms today. And let's move into our announcements, and we have several slides for that. Next week, we are having a town hall following this service. This will be business updates. This will be a forum for us to hear from you as well. And during the service itself, our board of trustees will be installed, and there will be a thank you as well to some of the trustees who have left the board. So please join us next week for that town hall afterwards, and lots of good stuff there. Theater ministry is starting on June 3rd, so that will be a 4-week, what do you want to call it? A ministry, a class, a workshop. Yes, it's all of the above. Reverend Dr. Adrian will be in charge of that. And if you haven't, wave your hand and talk to her. She will explain all the good stuff that's going to happen. Or you can simply email admin@unityofcharlotte.org to get that registration information. We have a new member workshop series. So the idea is for us to have 3 separate workshops that lead up to that new membership. So they will be the 5 basic Unity Principles workshop in June. And all of these are 1 o'clock on Saturdays. The next one will be in July, and that's the Affirmative Prayer workshop. And then in August, we will have that new member class. So all 3 of those are required if you are wanting to be a new member. If you're already a member, join us for 1, 2, or all 3 of those. It'll be some really good information, really good chance to get to know each other, get to know the new members and each other even better as well. Building community through engagement. We've got many different ways in which to engage with each other. Service is a key to us, as we talked about that love, grow, and serve. So this is part of the serve. Take a look. When you leave the sanctuary, there is a bulletin board right across there, and we have those chances to serve up there for you to be able to fill in, see what's available, and be able to do that as well. Ongoing, we have our Belmont Study Group, the men's group on Wednesday, 2nd and 4th Wednesdays, pub theologies on the 1st Thursday. Virtually, we have the Dialogue as Service, A Course in Miracles, and coffee with the ministers each week as well. If you have any questions on those, come see one of us. So, let's go ahead and move into our Unity Prayer of Oneness. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good omnipotence. And we claim and affirm this presence in our life as love. So, if you have someone in your life that you would like to hold in prayer, this is the time in our service where we will move into silence, where we will hold that person, hold that situation, hold that organization, maybe even in prayer. So at this point, gently say their name out loud. We hold these names, we hold these individuals in prayer. knowing that the truth is there for them, for whatever is that perceived need. Maybe it's peace, maybe it's health, maybe it's relationship. We hold their names, we hold the truth in our mind, in our hearts, that they have what they need at this moment. We're so grateful for the chance to come together on this Mother's Day, to be a community together, to share in that love. And together we say, amen. Now's the time we have our daily word. I'm going to invite, and you have your copy already.
It's a joy to be together on this important day. I bless all mothers with thoughts of gratitude. There's nothing quite like a mother's love, so nurturing, caring, and warm. Today, I bless the women in my life who express this love in all they do, whether it's the woman who raised me or any of the other women I know who so generously shared a mother's love. I have felt the care of God through their tender touch and encouraging words. Over the years, I have grown strong and confident under their kind direction and have relied upon their wisdom. The divine feminine flourishes on earth in the loving words and caring hands of mothers and all those who share a mother's love. I bless them and pray they know the love of God as they have shared it so generously with me. Then the mother of the child said, "As the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave without you." 2 Kings 4:30.
Thank you, Reverend Pat. So, as gratitude, I want to have us focus on that principle of co-creation within our lives. For a long time, we held that we would find this space in that co-creative principle, and we did. And so now, part of that principle is that we give gratitude for this as well. So, along with me, please repeat. As we have manifested our new meeting space at Wesley United Methodist Church, we are grateful. With deep appreciation, we say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to say thank you because Reverend Lisa is coming up to give us our message today. Reverend Lisa.
Thank you, Reverend Jim. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am feeling gratitude. Happy Mother's Day. One more time. I don't think we can say it enough. It's a wonderful time to celebrate every form we show up as mothers and that incredible maternal love that we may express through children, through adopted children, through our adopted pets that we love. I'm one of those. So mothers, we celebrate you today, and we're so glad you're here joining in with us. And for those who are on Zoom, welcome and happy Mother's Day. And it's a great way to move into our topic for today. Reverend Jim started with the topic of abundance is flow, and we're going to continue on with that idea, because what is that incredible expression of motherhood but abundance? An abundance of love and care and support and nurturing. But we're going to look at abundance as flow, and I'm going to start with someone who's known as the mother of the Unity Movement, Myrtle Fillmore, who was co-founder with her husband, Charles. And she has this amazing, this is in a little booklet, by the way. I would love to show you this. This is put out by unity.org. And we get a certain number of copies of these and put them out for everybody to take and to share. But I just find they're writings from our past foundational Unity ministers. They're writings from our current Unity ministers and teachers and leaders. And it's just an amazing source of spiritual nourishment. So I'd invite you to go on unity.org and look at all the booklets. Some of them are free and some of them are available at a minimal cost. I'm going to be reading something Myrtle wrote, and that's going to kind of guide what we're going to look at as we consider abundance as flow. In here she says, true prosperity, and I'm substituting the word prosperity for abundance, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. True abundance is not making money or putting out goods or developing property. It is determining what our souls require in order to cause them to unfold more of God. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. True prosperity is determining what our souls require in order to cause them to unfold more of God. I found that truly impactful because it means to prosper means I am expressing my most authentic spiritual self through my human expression. It doesn't deny our individuality as human beings and the individual spiritual gifts we bring, but the source of that is my divine nature. And that's where I prosper and where I find a permanent flow of abundance. Now she goes on to say, and this was the other thing I truly appreciated about this particular quote. She says, and then how to harmonize their expression with the needs of our fellow human beings so that all are benefited and inspired to unfold and express more of their inner spiritual resources. So she didn't stop at just our individual prosperity and abundance. It is necessarily and integrally connected to everyone else. That doesn't make us responsible for everyone else, but it broadens our perspective of we're not in this alone. And it's not just about my riches and my expression. It's about who I am along with you and you and you. And that's what our spiritual community is about. It's about bringing together our own individual spiritual gifts and expressions and finding a way to come together where we get to create something even greater. And that's, to me, where the true flow of abundance is really expressed. So that's what we're going to be looking at a little bit more today. But I'd like to start with, and I have to kind of find out how far I can walk around. Stop. Good. We got these nice, lovely new little headpieces so I can actually move around, but we still have cameras to consider. Because I don't want to go off camera for our Zoom members. So the first thing I wanted to look at is what is our current culture. The current culture that we live in today is one of consumerism. Would you agree? Okay. I looked up the word consume, and you know what it means? Exactly. To use up, as in resources. Consume means to use up. I have hit my limit. No, I have no limits. So this was really eye-opening because I want to consider the fact that we are embedded in a culture that has created a belief system that we have taken on. So I believe if I am living from the belief system of this culture, that I need to keep buying things because they get used up. So I have to keep buying things. Well, that's kind of the nature of capitalism too, I suppose. But as a consumer, what happens is we live in fear of running out. It doesn't matter what it is. We live in fear of running out of something, anything, because as a consumer, we know it's going to be used up. That's just the nature of that idea. But it's just an idea. It's an idea I can take a hold of, and I can make it a belief, and I can start to formulate my life and how I respond to life based on this idea that things are going to be used up, so I better what? Accumulate. I better start accumulating. And then we think of wealth as what? An accumulation of things. Now, there's nothing wrong with having an accumulation of things, but are you living in fear of it getting used up? Or does it represent an unlimited expression of abundance that you are ready to give away? That's the only difference. It's where do we come at it from our minds? So in my title, or in my description of this, I talked about abundance is not accumulation, it is activation. It's not about accumulation, it's about activation. Because accumulation creates stagnation. It stagnates us, right? Because we're holding on to. And we're defending because we don't want to lose what we have. And this can happen in the most subtle of ways. And it can happen in the most extreme of ways, such as war. That's the most extreme form of protecting and hanging on to what we have, but we do it in our individual lives in really subtle ways. Like not sharing things that we have with others, not giving to those things that feed us, or just in any way that we hold on to something because we're worried we'll either lose it, or it'll get broken, or it'll get taken. So we put bolts on our doors. And so it's just something to think about, because I'm not saying, hear me, not saying you shouldn't have a bolt on your door, but at some point we have to look at where we're coming from. And I know that's what I did as I was preparing for this talk. Accumulation is not an expression of abundance, because abundance is a spiritual principle of life. It's an expression of life. And life is not stagnant, is it? The very nature of life is that it moves and it grows and it creates and it extends. And that's what life is. So when we stagnate, we're literally cutting ourselves off from the stream of life. And what is the source of life? What is our source of life? Yes. Karen, we'll go back to Karen Drucker's song. Play that song again. God is our source. And God as love, as joy, as peace is our source. And it is unending, unlimited, and always available, because we are an extension of that source, and we have never been separate from it. But we can do a number on our own mind, can't we? When I start to think, I'm my source of my riches, so it's up to me to go out and gain what I need. So the opposite of accumulation, I said, there's probably different ways of saying this, but I'm going to say is circulation. And I like the word circulation more than give, because circulation includes give, but it also includes receiving. Circulation is movement. Life is movement. And when it moves, it naturally grows, and it feeds everyone around you, and it comes back and feeds you. So circulation is the flow of abundance. In the daily, not the daily word, the revealing word, which is our book by Charles Fillmore, where it gives metaphysical meanings for words and places and people. It says that spiritual circulation is the inner stream of life, substance, and intelligence flowing freely through the entire being. Flowing freely through our entire being. And that is when we talk about a flow of abundance or abundance as flow, that's what we're talking about. It is the stream of life and intelligence that flows through our entire being. Our entire being is our heart, our mind, and our soul, and our physical body. It's every part of us in its expression. Now, I love this. This is from Charles Fillmore, Atom's Smashing Power of Mind. That title alone should make you go, what? Wow. So Charles Fillmore had a wonderful mind. Charles Fillmore, co-founder along with Myrtle, he really loved the science that was being expressed because it so aligned with the spiritual principles that he knew to be true. And so he says, if we could release the energy in the atoms the scientists tell us about, we could supply the world. We could supply the world. This power lies within every one of us. This power lies within every one of us. We can begin by freeing the little ideas we have and making them fill the world with thoughts of plenty. So you're not even asked to have ideas of magnitude. Any little idea of plenty that you begin to feed has the power within these atoms to magnify the idea of plenty out into the world. Finally, he says, we must realize that all power is given to us in heaven and earth, as Jesus told us. As Jesus told us. Now, I want to go to a story in the scriptures, speaking of Jesus. And it's the story of the fishes and loaves miracle. And this is a really powerful story. So powerful, it's actually in all 4 Gospels, which is rare because usually there's stories in 1 or 2. This is in all 4 of them. And it's considered a very significant expression of who and what Jesus was and the lessons that he shared with us. Now, there's many spiritual lessons I can glean from this and share, but I'm just going to touch on the one that I think really resonated with me in the message of abundance being a flow. First of all, when you look, first of all, let me share with you, if you don't know the story of the fishes and loaves, Jesus is teaching to a multitude on a hillside. And they've been there for 3 days, and the people are hungry, and the disciples come to him and say, we don't have any way to feed them. We don't have food supplies to feed all these people. We need to tell them to go into the town and get their own food. And Jesus says, no, they came here to be with me. I want to feed them. And a little boy brought forth fishes and a couple of loaves of bread and 5 fishes. The numbers vary somewhat, and I could go into what all those numbers mean, but let me just say he brought forth a small quantity of fishes and bread and fish and gave it to Jesus, and Jesus accepted it with gratitude, lifted it to the heavens, blessed it, and began breaking it and feeding the people. And not only was everybody fed, but when they collected everything that was left over, they had 12 baskets full left over. Now, there's a lot of different ways to talk about that, or sorry, I have to get back on camera. There's a lot of different ways we can look at that. There's different perspectives that give us different spiritual lessons. They're all valid. So just bear with me as I talk about these two. From a metaphysical spiritual perspective, what little we have, if we bring it and give it in our Christ consciousness, with an awareness of who and what we are in God, we give it with gratitude and we bless it, it is impossible it will not multiply in our lives. Because that is the spiritual law. And it even goes on to say, when we bring our loaves and fishes, by faith we cooperate, we co-create with the power of God. And the power of God's unlimited. And we are expressions of that power as individuals. But we have to open up to that stream of consciousness, don't we? But there was another perspective that I wanted to share with you about this, and that goes back to Myrtle's original quote that I shared with you, where it was at first an individual experience of the flow of abundance. But then she says, then we harmonize our expression of abundance with everyone else, with all of those around us. It's a collective expression of the flow of abundance, that we all bring our gifts together. And this is not probably a well-known perspective. I tried to do some research on it because I had heard about it, and it came from the idea that there were some scholars who believed that the way the gospel writers were interpreted was a little different. And they said what really might have happened is Jesus was teaching about giving and sharing. And so when it came to feeding, everybody brought what little they had, because they probably didn't have much left after 3 days. But when they brought it together collectively, it multiplied miraculously. And for some, they feel like that diminishes the power of the miracle of what God can do through Jesus and through us. But I don't think so, because I feel like that is as much a miracle that we connect to each other as a single collective force of God expressing in this world, and open up our stores instead of keeping them locked up individually. And when we do that together collectively, amazing abundance occurs in all ways. And that's exciting to me, because it gets me out of my own little world. And when I begin to experience who I am with all of you, I find more of myself. And that's a miracle. Okay, so how do we live more abundantly? These are wonderful ideas. They were very inspiring to me, but then it comes down to, how do I do this? How do I bring this abundance, this permanent flow of abundance through in my life? And unity is anything but practical. Maybe it's everything and practical. I like that better. So how do we transform our minds from that consumer consciousness that we may have taken on to activating our creative potential as spiritual beings in human form? How do we open up those channels? And I'm going to refer to something Ernest Holmes said. I know many of you know Ernest Holmes. He was a New Thought leader and the founder of religious science, very much in alignment with unity principles. And he said, prosperity is a process of expanding our horizons through openness, wonder, possibility, and expectation. So I just say that and I'm just like, right? No stagnation in that. Circulation is in that. Movement, energy. It starts that flow, and that flow is abundance. He says it's about a consistent and devoted practice of directing our awareness to the highest thought possible and embracing our capacity for creativity. Embrace it. There's nothing about you or I that is stagnant. There's nothing about who and what we are that is limited. But here's where it differs somewhat, and this is why I've kind of moved from the idea of prosperity to the idea of abundance, because there is something called the prosperity gospel. And it very much uses these same laws, but the intention is somewhat different here, because it generally focuses on you as an individual having the capacity to create material wealth in your life, material riches, and having an expression that really, when you do that, you are expressing the abundance of God as a model of what can be. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. You might want to do that, but I feel sometimes like we forget that if we're doing it just for ourselves, and if we do it from a perspective of I want this or I want that. Like, I love my Starbucks coffee. I really want Starbucks coffee. And that's okay to have things that we enjoy and love, but they don't rule our life. Because what I really want is to be happy and to be free and to be the most authentic self as fully as I can be. Because when I am, abundance will flow through me without having to define how it gets manifested. I will have everything I need. The universe will literally lay a path before me, bringing in whatever resources I need to express more and more of God here, now. And that, to me, is the goal of truly living an abundant life. And I might have some nice things. That's okay. But they're not my goal. They're kind of just a nice thing that came along and was allowing me to be who I am. And if they go, it wouldn't matter to me, because it's not what I'm here for. So how do we do that? He says, again, a consistent, devoted practice of redirecting our awareness. So how that has shown up in my life is a couple of ways. I had a little story about an apartment Reverend Jim and I lived in Minnesota. It was Minneapolis. And we didn't know how long we were going to be there, so we found something that we thought would, do it for short term. And it was a pretty old building. But they kind of renovated the apartment enough, and it had a balcony that overlooked trees, which was very high priority for me. So I could overlook a few other things, like the shower. Okay? So you never know what kind of water pressure you're going to get till you move in, right? So we moved in, and it was so bad. It was, not only did we not have a lot of pressure, but it would go hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. And you couldn't, and we went to them, and they were like, it's an old building, we can't do anything. And I'm like, okay. So we had a leak in the bathroom, and they came and they replaced the floor, and they put this really nice floor in. And it made the bathroom look really nice. So here's what I did. Every time I got in the shower, Reverend Jim knows, I'd be like, oh, I hate this shower. Then it'd be like, all right, but I love the new bathroom floor. Looks so nice, right? I shifted my thoughts away from what I wasn't wanting to what I felt gratitude and appreciation for. And that wasn't a big thing, but it shifted my energy. And I will tell you that the next apartment had the most awesome shower ever. So that's kind of a little bit of an example of are we in a job we don't like? Are we in a situation we don't like? Well, remember the power of your mind. What consciousness do you want to come from? When we come from that consumer consciousness, then there's going to be a fear of missing or losing something. It's impossible, it's not so. But we can shift our minds over and over again. That's the practice, and it's a practice. I am still practicing, and I've been doing this a long time, but I'm better and better at it. So it's worth it. We practice shifting our awareness to, wait a minute, what's the truth here? The truth is God is my source. I will have everything I need. And I open myself in gratitude for the blessings right here and now. So if I want a new job, I don't sit and focus on the things I hate about the job I'm currently in. I know I did that one too. I had to shift from, because I really, and I'll tell you that the two most powerful practices in making this shift is gratitude and forgiveness. You can't do it without including gratitude and forgiveness. And I had a job that was in a very toxic environment, but honestly, I was initially a part of that toxicity because I bought into it and I fed that negativity until I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, I am responsible for what I bring. And through a constant practice of shifting my mind the minute I start down that path, and it took forgiving people I thought had wronged me, by recognizing them from a different perspective. And it took being grateful for the blessings I did have in that job, because it was helping me pay my rent, for one thing. So there's always things to be grateful for, and I just focused on that, and I focused on forgiveness. And I eventually had a recruiter call me and say, hey, we have a job for you over at this other company, and it was everything I wanted. So I know this works. And not just for the outcome, because it was wonderful to get that job, but the real gift was I wasn't stressed and anxious and making myself sick anymore. I was beginning to feel love and compassion for the people I was around, and I started to live from a place that was much more free and authentic. And it didn't include just me, it included the people I was around. It included everyone I worked with and my family and my friends. So I encourage you to, we're gonna go into a meditation where I can start this practice with you, but I encourage you this week to note where you feel stuck in a situation that you don't feel abundance flowing. It could be anything. It could be a little situation. You can feel one that's bigger. It doesn't matter the size, but find it and then create an affirmation. I'm going to give you an affirmation here. This is the affirmation I used. So I would see, like, say, when I was in ministerial school, I was working full time, working at the church or volunteering at the church. I had no time. And that was my constant mantra. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. Anybody have that one? Yeah. So I learned as soon as I started to go down that road, it's like, I know where this path is leading me. There is no lack of time. God is my instant, constant, and abundant source of supply. So I offer you this affirmation, but I would say, look at that specific situation and craft an affirmation that resonates deeply in your heart and soul, and use it over and over whenever the situation arises. Abundance is not accumulation, it is activation. It is the activation and alignment of our hearts and our minds with our Creator and the power of that creative expression that lives through us. And so it is. Now I invite you to sit back, gently close your eyes if that is comfortable. Take a deep breath in. Let it out on a sigh. And take a moment to bring to mind a situation where you feel a sense of lack or a sense of stagnation or a sense of stuckness. And don't get into the story of how it came about or what it's about, just this situation it feels stuck to me. And just be in it for a moment. And then right there, with every part of that situation, I want you to imagine bringing the light of God flowing right into it. You may see it flowing from your own heart, your own mind, your own being into that situation. You may see it flowing into both of you from above. Doesn't matter. Just see light circulating and moving. And if it feels right to you, say to yourself, whatever lack it is you're feeling, there is no lack of time or resources or patience or love. God is my instant, constant, and abundant source of supply. And repeat that if you need to, but then just sit and let that marinate in that situation as we take a moment of silence. And when you are ready, release that situation. Release the need to do anything about it, knowing that that affirmation is already working in your heart, in your mind, in your life. You have opened to the flow of life, and abundance is the response. Take a deep breath in. And know it is so. When you're ready, open your eyes. And I just affirm that I see the light of God flowing in and through each and every one of you. And that we collectively together can create magnificent abundance. And I can't wait to see what it looks like. Namaste.
So now is the part of our service, the offering part of our service. And we know that as we give, we receive. This is that circulation that Reverend Lisa talked about, that circulation part of our universe. And it's through your generous giving that Unity of Charlotte continues to be a light within this community. But one of the things that I do want to shout out, many of you out here on Zoom, on YouTube, in the congregation here today, give in a consistent manner. And when I say that consistent giving, that is that scheduled giving that you do. If it's through Breeze, if it's through your bill pay system, it is different from putting money into the plate. I would love to give, I would love to see this congregation give consistently and not even have this plate passed around at some point in the future. I honor those who give consistently. We have different ways of giving consistently. So consistently, you'll see that bill pay system, which a lot of people use. You'll see the donate button, which takes you to that Breeze section of our website. You'll see the text to give as well. You'll see the QR code that you can use on your phone if you're technologically savvy. All this information is also on the bulletin board out there. If you do one of these 4 things today, I will give you a little gift. I have a little gift card for you. And it can be text $1 to the church. I will give you that gift. So that's a little thank you for us as well. So consider that, and consider setting that bill pay system up for us as well, so that we can plan our budget into the future. When we do that, we know what's coming, and we can plan those classes, those events, these things much better. So please join me in our offertory blessing. So together, joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.